stayed all night last night in the streets. You never come home till the break of day. Oh yeah, tell me, sweet baby, why you stayed all night last night? You don't come home in the day. Ram the streets all night.
Eddie Bowles was born in 1884 in Louisiana and was a professional musician for only a short period in his 20s. However, his formative years as a guitarist were spent in New Orleans, during a period that was arguably the most important in American musical history, at the birth of blues and jazz in the early 1900s. And Eddie Bowles moved in the same circles as figures including Louis Armstrong and Kid Ory. Live music was, then and now, a feature of New Orleans. Eddie Bowles played in 2 different dance bands during this period, before the invention of radio and prior to the appearance of the first blues recordings, when music meant live music. However, Eddie grew tired of the life of a traveling musician and felt he needed more stable work after he married his wife Sarah in 1911. So he put down his guitar. His search for work eventually led him, in 1914, north to Cedar Falls, Iowa, where he was employed to pave some of the original asphalt streets in the city. Friends arranged to bring Sarah north to join him, and they set the couple up in a modest house just north of the city limits. He and Sarah were among the first black residents of the city, and Eddie would become the first black city employee. Eddie Bowles held a wide range of jobs after arriving in Cedar Falls. In addition to paving, he worked in a John Deere foundry, as a railroad foreman, as a woodcutter and tree trimmer for the city, in addition to running his own tree trimming business. However, one thing he did not do during his early years in Cedar Falls was play guitar. In interviews, Eddie said that he put the instrument down for almost 30 years before picking it up again. When he did resume playing guitar, mostly for himself, though occasionally in public, he continued to play in the traditional style he had learned, which relied on fingerpicking. This was significant because during the blues revival of the 1960s, Bowles was sought out by young guitarists eager to learn his unique picking style of guitar playing, or to just hang out with him. And he became a mentor to many younger local musicians, including Rush Cleveland, a class of 2023 inductee into the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Eddie had a cabin there on the old dump road. I met him when I was maybe 7 or 8, fishing down by the river. I knew him a long time.
In the 1970s, Bowles was a featured performer at the annual Cedar Falls Folk Convention, and remarkably, he continued playing well into his 90s before passing away at the age of 100 in 1984. When Bowles was celebrated as a living legend towards the end of his life, that wasn't just due to his age, but because of his style of playing, which was representative of an earlier, legendary moment. Eddie Bowles was happy to play guitar. He would set up an amp in his driveway just to see if people would stop by, and he played impromptu afternoon concerts for neighborhood kids, but he was never interested in recording an album. As with the guitar pick, blues recordings didn't even exist when he first learned to play. Nevertheless, during the 1970s and 1980s, when Bowles himself was in his 80s and 90s, musicologists, radio show hosts, and local historians took pains to get some of Eddie's music on tape. Until recently, the only recording by Eddie Bowles that had been released was the original song Blues, also called Eddie Bowles Blues, which appeared on Art Rosenbaum's 2007 Grammy Award-winning collection Art of Field Recording Volume 1. Rosenbaum had traveled to Cedar Falls in 1976 and recorded Bowles playing acoustic guitar in the front yard of a one-room house he had built near the banks of the Cedar River. Those field recordings, along with recordings from a series of appearances on Iowa Public Radio and a cable TV interview, make up The Best of Eddie Bowles, a digital album of 16 songs that was released in 2022 by Final Thursday Press. Eddie Bowles' induction into the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame is the culmination of a series of recognitions he has received. In 2022, Bowles was the subject of an exhibit on his life and music at the Hearst Center for the Arts in Cedar Falls. In 2023, he received a Peter Melendi Spirit Award for his role in the Cedar City community. And in 2024, Cedar Falls residents successfully raised funds to provide a grave marker for Eddie Bowles and his wife Sarah. Eddie Bowles has never been a forgotten figure, and he has long been appreciated by those in Cedar Falls who knew him personally. However, now his music and the story of his life is available to a broader audience. In 1982, when Eddie Bowles was 98, he sat for an interview with the new public access cable TV station in Cedar Falls. Eddie talked about his life and work, and he brought out his guitar for one final recorded performance. This is Eddie Bowles playing the classic song, Memories.
But this is what you call picking. You see, finger picking. That is, you use 7 fingers for that. 5 here and 2 there. Yeah. That's the old stolen waltz. I used to play that when I was coming home at night from playing music. Lots of time. I used to say, well, here come Eddie Bowles with his waltz all the time. They like that.